Hi everyone, and welcome to discussion number 4 about the films in the program of the Korean Film Week, a century of Korean women, hosted by the Embassy of the Republic of Korea and its cultural department. Thank you to all that are interested in this film and have decided to watch this panel. And thank you to those who are here today taking part in this discussion. First, we have Sanja Struna, a film critic from Slovenia who specializes in Korean cinema. Then we have 2 students joining us, Fiona Tappeser from the University of Vienna in Austria and Maša Žekš from the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. I'm Alexandra Schiefert and I'm a lecturer at the University of Vienna at the Department of Korean Studies. The film we're going to talk about now is director Han Karam's feature film debut.
Yes. Our Body. It's a realistic, slow-paced story in which we follow a disenchanted 30-something woman who becomes enchanted with another woman of her age, or rather her body. And she tries to follow her footsteps to ensure a better existence for herself. It is a project that is very ambitious, especially for a first-time director, and it tackles difficult topics without many romantic notions and a very natural dose of positivity.
All right. So there's a lot to say about the protagonist, Taeyong. First of all, she's, as already mentioned, over 30 and she's unmarried. Her relationship isn't really going great and it is passionless, just like her life altogether, and it is very much reflected in the pacing of the movie as well. You would expect her to be heartbroken over her breakup that happens rather in the beginning of the movie, but it doesn't really draw any type of reaction from her. She remains calm, indifferent almost, and it just gives us this feeling of her not caring about her relationship, not caring about her future, and not caring about herself at all. When she first takes notice of Hyunju, she sees her running and she becomes obsessed with her being fit and trim and everything she feels she is not. So she decides to pick up running as well and ends up pushing herself more and more and follows that woman and eventually has an emotional breakdown, upon which Hyunju finally notices her and invites her into her running group. And they form a friendship, a very open one, a very well communicated one. And so there's something more that I would like to say about being 30. It's quite different in Korea. It's a landmark. It's a point at which you are supposed to have it all figured out, to have found your place in life, to settle down, in theory. The extent of that goes as well into relationships, obviously. And being unmarried in your 30s is almost like a personal shortcoming for a woman. So while the perception of marriage in itself is slowly changing, and instead of you're 20 now, you should be married, it is more like in your 20s you should be able to find someone and marry. It is still that women are really pressured into marrying and into achieving this landmark, as already said. Something that I personally also took notice of was the clothing, the styling in the movie. When we get introduced to Taeyong, she is mostly dressing in dull colors and loose fitting stuff that's just not doing much for her, just like anything in her life. It's just not taken care of well. And Hyunju enters her life in her running garb that is tight-fitting, and her top is pristine white, so you could almost see it as this spark of light that enters her life. And as she follows Hyunju and as she evolves, she starts wearing brighter colors herself as well. And it is not only in that way that I found the clothing noticeable. There's also that point where Hyunju suddenly does not wear a bright top. She is wearing black and goes running, and is also an omen for what she decided to do. And it is also mentioned that as a runner, especially at night, you should wear bright colors, because otherwise drivers won't see you, won't be noticeable. And you can really switch that over onto Jaeyoung as well, because as she transgresses, she starts dressing more bright, more form-fitted, and becomes visible. So yeah, that's my word on Jaeyoung.
Thank you, Fiona. All being said, I believe the film is trying to give us a bit of mens sana in corpore sano vibe. So it theorizes that physical exercise is an important or essential part of mental and psychological well-being. Jaeyoung decides to take up running, which gradually starts to improve everything else in her life. So it is kind of a nice message about improving yourself and about how the care everybody should have for their own body. She gets more disciplined and slowly learns to actively pursue her own desires. She's trying to literally and metaphorically run away from the social order and achieve her final self-determination and liberation. Although she is coming from the point of body dysmorphia and unhealthy obsession with another girl's body, the connection between physical and psychological improvement is not to be ignored.
Thank you, Maša. And like we already discussed, there's a little bit more about Jaeyoung. So when she's first introduced, she appears to be suffering from a sudden lack of ambition, or maybe after spending the better half of her 20s just studying, she just can't care anymore. Maybe she's reached her limit. Well, anyway, she decides not to take the civil servant exam. And later, when she tells her mother about this, they have this huge falling out. Her mother then asks her, what do you want to do with your life? And Jaeyoung says nothing here. She just stares at her mother. And I'd like you to pay close attention to Jaeyoung's face in that scene, because the actress, she did a fantastic job here, just portraying Jaeyoung's emotion. Her face is perfectly blank. She just doesn't know where her life is going. She's directionless. And in the end, that's a bit of a theme for Jaeyoung. She leaves without ever defending her decision or saying anything about it, like at all. This starts to change when she meets Yeonju, who Fiona already mentioned, but still, change comes slowly. And there is this scene where Jaeyoung is eating with her mother at a restaurant, and Jaeyoung tells her how she joined a running club. And even though her mother had mentioned before that Jaeyoung indeed looked better, she still tells her off and asks her to do something else if she's got that much energy. And Jaeyoung doesn't speak up again. And that's maybe at the 30 minutes mark. So, yes. And about Yeonju, there's something else. Like, she becomes this object of obsession for Jaeyoung. She's the ideal, and she doesn't realize that Yeonju struggles as well. That Yeonju is trying to get her novel published but keeps failing, and that's when the twist happens. Yes.
I think that her motives are probably mixed between her ongoing obsession with that girl and mixed feelings about wanting to be or to be with that girl, and finally being more active in her own decision making. So she's perhaps satisfied with the fact that she actually did decide something, the things that she decides later on, and went through with it, even though it may not be her idea or her wish in the first place. I think people do this a lot when somebody we admire or respect does something or likes something, we tend to try that as well and like it as well. So yeah, who idea was it really?
I also think that it's very interesting to note how while Jaeyoung always seems so very passive around her mother, and in the beginning even her co-workers, pushing all of her feelings down, I think it's interesting that she gets involved in running, which is a very active hobby. So running seems to be an extreme to balance another extreme in her life. Yeah.
Right. So thank you all. We have reached the end of this discussion. A big thank you to everyone here and to our viewers. And in case you haven't watched them yet and want to know more, there are other discussion videos for other films as well. You're most welcome to watch them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.